Okay, thank you for the times. Uh, like the first presenters, I have a similar what we call it discussions. It is a new normal representation in tourism industry, a case study of multimodal linguistic landscape. As you all know, that Bali is a tourism-based, what we call it, finance. So that this COVID-19 is what we call it, a big devastated position to us in Bali. Okay, these presentations or this paper were written by me myself and Pak Ketut Artawa. Unfortunately, today he cannot attend the sessions because he's not in a good conditions. Okay, I will start my presentation with the introductions as what the first presenter had already explained that in this case, COVID-19 have a language phenomena. I would like to raise the language phenomena so that I can have a good discussions on the new normal life. Yeah, COVID-19 is a new strain severe acute respiratory syndromes or coronavirus that was believed to be transmitted from bat to human. This disease was initially occurred in Wuhan, China on December 2019. As what presenter had said that on January 30, WHO declared the outbreak as a peak condition. It is an international concern. And later in 2 months, on 11 March 2020, WHO declared the COVID-19 as a pandemic. As the declarations of the pandemic, it also have what we call it an impact of a language phenomena. As we can aware of, especially in Indonesia and around the world, as I see from the newspaper on online news, we have a race of new vocabulary terms, such as lockdown is the most obvious one. And then we have ODP, PDP, OTG, suspect, rapid test, swab test, local transmissions, yeah, work from home, as we do it today, webinar, yeah, and then study from home, and etc. As for Indonesian government policy, yes, the other speaker already mentions about the stages from March to November, but my focus is on the new normal adaptations. Yeah, on February 4th, 2020, a regulations on COVID protocol plague has been issued by the health department. And then on March 31st, the president issued a lockdown regulations as a PSPB, pembatasan sosial berskala besar, a large-scale quarantine. This is the what we call it the source point of a new normal life, because as it is stated as a local lockdown, all entrances to Bali were closed. Yeah, so there are no what we call it tourism industry works against in Bali. Start from March to May. Now on May 20, 2020, a recommendation letter from the health department regulate the operating procedure or protocol in daily basis service provided by public and private company. Now, this is a new normal regulation raised by the government that give us what we call it tourism industries a new what we call a new start to open our business by applying a new normal regulations. This new normal life adaptation in the tourism industry is shown by regulating a new protocol in preventing or posting an outdoor sign such as poster, instruction, or request to all employee and customer to improve normal protocol in premises. Yeah. So this implementing is the what we call it the basis problems that will be discussed in these discussions. Research method As I said, it is a multimodal linguistic landscape approach. We have aware that linguistic landscape is the feasibility and salience of language on public and commercial sign in a given territory. It is stated initially by Landry and Boris in 1907. A multimodal itself is a multi-angle approaches in discovering the meaning of a discourse or sign proposed by Chris and Lewin. As for reading visual design, is a multi-approaches to grammatically read a sign based on its representation, interaction, and process and composition process. Now, my research is a multimodal linguistic landscape approach. So I see the sign is not merely about the sign itself. I also see where the sign is placed, what is the language being used. So that there is a multi-angle approach to know that the sign is worked in a certain position, in a certain place. It is not randomly put, something like that. Yeah. All the data source, any posted of outdoor sign indicating new normal representation in tourism industry. In this case study, the data were taken from one hotel, small hotel in Kuta area that I can access. It is Rabasta Kuta. The data were collected through observation method with photographic technique, and the data analysis was a combination, was focused on the compositioning meaning, because based on the reading visual design proposed by Chris and Lewin, composition is the most, what we call it, the most general and obvious meaning that can be observed. The collected data were in terms of poster, stickers, banner, and new normal representation in hotel area. The analysis. As it is mandatory by the regulations of the COVID-19 prevention in tourism industry, Rabasta Kuta applied the following step in adapting the new normal in public area. At the entrance gates, there is a wash basin with a specific request or order to all guests to wash their hand before entering the hotel area. At the front office, there is a notice sticker sign put on the floor to remind all guests to respect social distances. At every floor near the stair, there is a hand sanitizer with a notice to use it at any time, completed with an instruction guide. There is also a COVID-19 standard procedure notification placed in the surrounding public area of the hotel to optimize the awareness of all guests in preventing the spread of COVID protocol. Here are the signs that I found. The first one is placed at front gate. Yeah, you see a wash basin and then a sign there. And then the second picture is a sign and sanitizer put in every floor. And then we have the third one is a sign on the floor. I have asked what we call the receptions there, why do the owner put signs on the floor? Because it is the most obvious way to ask customer to stay social distances. That's what they said. And lastly, we have a picture of a social protocol, what we call new normal protocol life in preventing COVID-19. Okay, for these presentations, I only raised one sign to be analyzed in new normal outdoor sign. As it is stated by Chris, there are three principles in sign making. Signs are made to a certain motivated form and meaning, the motivation of sign maker, and the use of certain available resources of the regions. Okay, so a sign, there will be a certain motivation, a certain meaning, the sign maker motivation, and where the place. So this sign, the first sign that you can see in the presentations, it's placed at the front gate on top of a wash hand basin next to front office with a text. There are bilingual text there, first in English and second in Indonesia. Dear guests, please wash your hand before entering the hotel area. Mohon cuci tangan Anda sebelum memasuki hotel area. Edit with a picture below the text, there is a picture of a specific step in hand washing. So the information value, we can see that the information value is an ideal and real value by which it is initial secure protocol before entering the hotel area. So the information given in this, what we call it, protocol, is that an order, yeah, the customer, a must, should, yeah, it is not a suggestion, it is not a recommendation, but it is a must. Why? It is placed in front of the hotel. As the salient value, the salient is the sign is rigorously attempt to practice personal hygiene in preventing COVID area. So this is the first step. Your personal hygiene is a must in the hotel. By the framing of the sign is a closed linear framing in which the procedure must be done such sequence as it is instructed. As the framing, why it is closed linear framing? Because you should wash your hand accordingly to the sign given. First, what to do, second, what to do. You cannot mix up the sequence. That's why the framing of the sign is closed linear framing. Lastly, the conclusions. What is the relations between language, health, and well-being? Based on the discussion, I found out that language, health, and well-being are non-separable consequences in this world, as language is the tool to communicating the health of well-being. Like I said, health conditions or well-being condition should be spread out, what we call it, in language. A world pandemic such as COVID-19 resulting the emerge of new vocabulary. So a pandemic, because this has happened around the world, there should be a new vocabulary as a consequences of language uniformity in spreading the information and other procedure. Without a new vocabulary, there will be no uniformity in spreading the information. So like the previous presenter said, we should wear masks. We should have a social distances. So social distances, wearing masks must have a same perspective of meaning around the world. It is a procedure in handling the pandemic. A new normal life is a product of COVID-19 pandemic by which it is an obligatory protocol in all aspects of life as well as in tourism industry. A visible outdoor sign is a product of implementing new normal protocol to rigorously set up individual and social awareness in preventing the spread of COVID-19. Now, from these 4 points, the first 4 points, we can see that language, health, and well-being is really corrected because through language, we can spread the word of the pandemic, we can spread the informations of the pandemic. And then in this pandemic, we create a rule of new normal. This new normal rule should be implemented in a visible ways. The most visible is the outdoor signs. That's why I choose outdoor sign as the what we call the subject. Lastly, the composition meaning of new normal outdoor signs are served with ideal real information to promote health and well-being as so that based on the discussion, we found out that what we call it in tourism industry is a must, and it is a thing that we should do in our life in order to survive, especially in business and commerce. I think that's all my presentation. Thank you for the times.
Well, thank you very much, Pak Wayan. So, yeah. So we have quite a bit of time for discussion, so around 14-15 minutes. So I would like to invite all the participants if you have any questions. So we have one in the chat box, Pak Wayan.
Yeah.
So it's from Arina. So do you want to respond to it?
Yeah. Okay. To Arina. I would like to ask, is there any chance to observe the representational and interactive meaning to the similar data as yours? If so, how significant is it? Okay. Unfortunately, I did not have a further what we call it analysis on the representations and interaction process of the signs. But I do believe based on the composition process, we will have what we call it a tight sequence of reactions and interactive positions. As you can see that representation, what we call it representation process, involves so many things. Yeah. If we look at the representation process, will be a narrative and conceptual process. We have action, reaction, speech materials. It is the base concept of what we call it insights, the contents of the sign itself. Yeah. As the interaction process, we will have a context, a social distance, and attitudes. I do believe the actors involved in this, what we call it, sign, will be interesting to be analyzed. But unfortunately, I have not yet what we call it, analyzed the representations and the interactions of the signs.
Arina, do you have further comments for that?
I have a question.
Okay, Pak Wayan and then Renzi. Go for it, Pak.
Okay, it's not the Wayan. Okay, we have
Wayan Arka.
okay, interesting. But you know, given your title, you're looking at tourism industry and the public, the signs there. So I would expect that there is some finding tourism specific public signs, right? Is this something generally true to the non-tourism settings as well? It would be good to have a further comparison between, you know, what is salient, you know, about public signs in the areas like in Kuta and in other places in Bali, which are not, you know, intended for example, to be able to capitalize salient properties of the public signs. Do you have any comment on that?
Okay, thank you, Pak Wayan Arka. But before I answer your questions, I would like to, what we call it, to congratulate you. Maybe the others already know that you have promoted to have a full professor. Congratulations, Pak Arka. I'm sorry, I take the media to say it to you. Okay, as for your questions is that besides in tourism industry, as what the first presenter said, Nurencia, in Bali, there are also many outdoor signs relating to the salience of COVID-19. But yet, in a step of protocol, new life protocol, there are no certain position in a public spaces. This new protocol lives, new normal life representation is only presented in certain places with commerce or business area. So that mostly the posters of new life representations found only in front of a shop, because we will have so many wash hand basins, a gallon, a tap water to wash your hand before you entering the premises of the business. So that in this case, the new normal representation is not spread what we call it in many public spaces, but specific to business places only. But the awareness of COVID-19, how to prevent COVID-19, is already put in certain places, in especially in government office, government buildings, government area, something like that.
Okay.
Okay, Renzi.
Thank you, Pak Sutarsa, for the chance, and also Pak Wayan Mulyawan for the presentation. I am very interested in one of the points in your conclusion. So you were saying that the emergence of new vocabulary item is to conform to language uniformity all over the world. So that was also probably answering my questions. Yeah, I have those questions in my head, like why people did not translate terms such as face mask or swab tests and those kind of things, because sometimes I heard people were having difficulties to even pronounce those terms correctly. And then you came up with the ideas that this is actually to achieve language uniformity globally. Yeah. And my question is, did you notice whether the signs actually help people to understand these terms, these new terms? For example, having Indonesian translation next to the English terms, or something like that, or they just through these English terms as they are, thinking that people already understood the terms.
Okay, thank you, Indonesia. I do believe that the answer to the question is the sign itself, because the sign is never stand alone with only verbal. The signs of COVID-19, as I observed in Kuta, is always accompanied by a picture. So that for some, maybe the people did not understand. But for quote, I did not have any, what we call an interview, whether they understand the text or they understand the picture, something like that, yeah? Because in that sign, there is a picture and a text below it, yeah? Maybe some of the people did not notice the picture, but the written text, the verbal text, but they only notice the pictures. So when you see a picture of someone wearing a mask, there will be wear a mask, something like that. When you see a picture of social distancing, there will be apart away, something like that. Yeah. So that this emerge of new vocabulary terms, like I said, it is the uniformity so that we can have a same ideas globally, especially in a certain protocol of the preventions. But as you can aware of, that there are some what we call it terms that are translated into Indonesia. For instance, self-isolation, we have isolasi mandiri, and then suspect we have terduga, dan but for certain cases like social distancing, wearing mask, body temperature, no handshaking, I do believe it become a trend. What we call it, there are almost all texts consist of that, yeah, for the preventing the COVID spread, something like that. Okay, thank you, Niris.
Thank you, Pa, for the answer.
Okay, any more questions, Nara?
Yes. So it's very, very interesting looking at the the linguistic landscape of this science. My question is, much kind of a general question. How is in Indonesia generally is a place, or the government is likes putting up slogans or signs, certain kind of policies in general, and is this kind of signpost during the COVID-19 is a kind of continuation of that kind of tradition, or is this completely actually different kind of thing? I can imagine, in China, there are in general slogans everywhere, national unity, fighting against corruption, and so forth and so on. Yeah. So I just wondered, and it is, I would not be surprised at all if there's many kind of signatures and slogans on the street in China. But I just wondered, in Indonesian case, is that similar, or is just really in during this COVID, it is particularly government is interested in this kind of signature and slogans and so forth?
Okay, thank you, Nara, for the questions. Unfortunately, like you have what we can guess, this spreads of information, this massive of information about one thing is only happened during this COVID-19 pandemic. Because before COVID-19 pandemic, there are no certain, what we call it, general ideas of health and welfare that being posted by the governments. Yeah. For health, there will be only posted around the hospitals, around the public services for the health. And for the issues like this one, this is maybe the great issues in the world, especially in Indonesia, also in Bali. So that the word itself, there are no bounds of regulations, because as we know that Indonesia have a certain regulations on public spaces language use. Because in Indonesia, especially in Bali, we have regulations. So that whenever a public notice put in a public, there will be two mandatory language. We should use Balinese transcriptions in Balinese letter, and then we should use a Latin transcription, and then we should have Indonesian transcription. There will be those combinations of languages. Yeah. So in Bali, formally start from 2018, all signs, public signs in Bali, especially a hotel name, something like that, a restaurant name, there will be a Balinese transcriptions above the Latin names. For instance, you have Rabastakuta, and then above the Rabastakuta there will be a Balinese transcriptions, Balinese letters. Yeah. But in COVID-19, there are no such obligations. So the government give the freedom of choice for the institution, private, and all government institutions to use their language so that the message is delivered well. Because when we use Balinese transcriptions, maybe not all will understand the message being delivered. So that, as I noticed, in all government institutions, the notice is not written in Balinese transcription. They are all in Latin, they are all in English, they are all in Indonesia. There are no Balinese. Only in certain places we have Balinese, but not in Balinese transcriptions. Only Balinese language, something like that. Yeah. I think that's about the use. I do believe that neglections of law is what allowed in this case, so that the informations of the preventions and the protocol is delivered well, so that there will be no obstacle in understanding what is being said. Different to other public signs, because other public signs, there are a certain rule that should be obeyed, something like that.
Great, thank you. Interesting.
Is that answering your question, Nara?
Yes, yes. Yeah.
Yep, good. Any more questions?
I had one.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, good.
Yeah, go for it, Marta.
It seemed that the signs you were showing were very public health oriented about what to do. I'm wondering, were there any appeals to a national cause, something more broader in terms of collective responsibility?
Unfortunately, in this case of new normal representations, all hotels have no national goal in posting the signs, because hotel focus on how they represent or put the image that their hotel is safe for the customers. So the goal is to represent that this hotel have conducted a new normal life with strict with the procedures of preventing COVID. There are no other slogan, national slogan, like the previous questions, added in this hotel area. I think that's about the slogan, because, but in public places like a government institution, yes, there is a certain slogans that like what Nurencia found in a certain area. Do not come to your hometown during last Eid. We have Idul Fitri. Now, in government building, we have a sign, jangan pulang kampung, do not go to your hometown, something like that. That will be occasionally stated as a national goal, because the government wish that no one come to their hometown, that will give more risk to the others of the area. But in case of protocol of new life, unfortunately, there are no national statement. But I do believe this goal of preventing COVID is the national goal, because it is stated in the national regulations, something like that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I guess time is very limited. So thank you for both of the speakers for the excellent talks. And it's time for a short break. So it's time for a cup of coffee, cup of tea, and we will be back at 2.